So chances are you are feeling anxious or overwhelmed by the headlines that you've been seeing this AM. I can tell you, last night, for the first time in a very long time, I decided to do a yoga class. That's how stressed I was. I just needed to just kind of release everything. So joining us right now is clinical psychologist and best-selling author, Dr. Ramani Durvasula. It's so good to see you again this morning.
Thank you, Marisol. Thank you so much for having me. And good for you on that yoga class. That was a good call.
Honey Chala felt like the Lord's work. So,
Yeah.
you know, in your opinion, and I know you study a broad range of genres, but you say you've never seen quite what we're experiencing, which is incredibly, everyone's having a toll taken on their mental health. So explain that to us.
You know, listen, as a therapist, I can tell you, I have been a therapist across enough election days that it sort of passed by. It was just a Tuesday and it was a blip and no one talked about it. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much polarization. There's so much bad blood. It is such a fraught time. And this is literally affecting people's relationships. And as you said, last night, people felt very stressed. I was reminding clients yesterday and this morning of a really important quote by Viktor Frankl, who's, you know, incredible, obviously existential psychiatrist. And he had said, an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is normal behavior. This is not a normal situation. So this idea that all of us should be free of anxiety and free of stress is actually kind of ridiculous, right? It's sort of like trying to have a birthday party in the middle of a hurricane. And so I want to tell people, if you are feeling stressed, you're pretty much right where you should be right now, because we've never seen this before. So this is brand new territory. And I want to keep reassuring people, being a little on edge right now is probably exactly where you should be.
Thank you for validating what I think so many of us are feeling, because stress rears itself in very different ways, and sometimes it's hard to identify. So we're waiting for an official declaration of president, and we feel overwhelmed. We feel this sense of dread. How do you even begin to overcome those feelings, especially when we're not living isolated? We can't live isolated lives. We're parents, we're children, we're colleagues. How do we do this?
Number one, I'd say don't try to overcome the feeling. It's a bit like being at the beach and saying, oh, these waves are coming up too high on the sand. I'm going to try to stop them. You don't try to do that at the ocean. You're not going to try to do that with your feelings. Instead, what I'd say is figure out what you can control. Let's just start with today. I use the analogy of a circle all the time. I've been using this with everyone I talk to. Inside the circles, all the stuff you can control: making breakfast, getting the workday started, helping your child with math homework, turning off the television, turning off your apps. That's in your control. What's outside of your control is the result of this election. So you watching the news is not going to change this election. And you've got to understand, you actually do have a lot more control than you think. And you may not think that pouring your breakfast cereal in a bowl is one of those things, but it is, because it means you're getting through the day. And so instead of trying to master your feelings, which is actually really, really hard to do, like I said, it's like pushing the wave back into the ocean, understand that at some level, you got to accept it. Today is going to be uncomfortable. This week is going to be uncomfortable. Find a routine, find the things and the people that make you comfortable. Don't try to go too out of that comfort zone today, because we're already all uncomfortable. So this may not be the week to sort of take on a difficult conversation with somebody, and try to keep as many things that you can control in your own control, and accept that this is a hard week, instead of trying to fight it, instead of trying to put that wave back off the sand and into the water.
You answered so many questions for me, so I'm going to pose one that's a little bit personal, because you are the expert in this field. How are you managing to get through these days? Because I often wonder how people who study this, chances are you turning off your apps? Are you turning off the news? Hopefully not right now, because you're on the news, but you know what I mean?
I absolutely am, Marisol. It's such good guidance. Last night, I was watching part of the election with my daughter, because I wanted her and I to talk about it politically. What do politics mean? How does the Electoral College work? She was teaching me what she learned in history. It was a really lovely moment in sort of teaching. But then her and I were saying, okay, this is too much. And she went to sleep and I went to my room. But what I do is I give myself 2 half-hour periods with the news, and I have a series of steps, the news sources I go through, boom, 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 and then otherwise I turn off all pop-up notifications. And because I'm a therapist, I'm with clients, so everything's off anyhow. It's built into my day. I get plenty of sleep. When I exercise on a treadmill and I watch a show that has nothing to do with news and elections, and I keep as much of my routine as possible. Those things have actually done me a lot of good. Anything that's my entertainment, my reading, my television, anything like that is completely off news, because otherwise I'd get overwhelmed. But I don't have push notifications on my phone for that reason.
Dr. Ramani, we are taking pages and pages from your book. So thank you so much for sharing
Thank you, Marisol.
your insight and your wisdom, and we hope we see you again
Thanks.
soon.